It's a V8 Supercar Race Fest to close out the season. Today on V8Xtra, we review all the action from Symmons Plains and Sandown. Plus, we'll preview our grand finale, the Sydney Telstra 500. Rick Kelly is standing by in the Jack Daniels Racing bunker to discuss his awesome drive at Sandown. Mark Larkham answers in detail all your questions about why cars are forced to queue in the pit lane. And Aaron Noonan runs us through the latest gossip on some driver team movements for 2012. That's all ahead today on V8Xtra.
Hi everybody, welcome once again to V8Xtra. Great to have your company today. Welcome to the program, and we're at the Novotel at Sydney Olympic Park, and in the final stages of construction now for next weekend's Sydney Telstra 500, our grand finale for the V8 Supercars Championship for 2011. Joining me once again, my mate and colleague Mark Skaife. Boy, we've got our tongues hanging out, buddy. If we get to the end of next week alive, we'll have done 3 race meetings in 4 weekends. It's been a really busy period.
Oh, it certainly has, Neil. I mean, one of the things that for us, if you're a Queensland team, logistically, you've been operating out of the truck for a month, haven't you? And the intensity of these race meetings, I mean, Tasmania, Sandown in the rain, and the drama that unfolded, and now coming to here, it's going to be on. It's, I mean, it's an incredibly intense finish to this championship.
Well, you mentioned intensity and the championship. Now, it's a critical time for 2 men. We've got to the point now where it's a genuine arm wrestle between Jamie Whincup and Craig Lowndes. If you take a snapshot of the last 4 races and you look at what both men have achieved, it's pretty extraordinary. For Whincup, 4 races, 2 pole positions and, importantly, 3 wins. He's established himself as the man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and we've been talking about it so much, the qualifying aspect of this is very important, and in a place like Sandown or a place like Tasmania, you have to be at the pointy end of the field. This will be the same. You've got to be at the pointy end and stay out of drama. How about Lowndes? I mean, that qualifying performance at Sandown, the worst of his career, and to be able to come back from 27th to 6th was an amazing drive.
We see this with Craig. That seat of the pants stuff where he climbs up the field from adversity is impressive, but if you're going to try and win the championship and climb over Jamie, it's not the way to do it. He had a shocker for one of the days in Tassie as well.
Yeah, he did, and you know, you and I have been talking Jamie's stocks up, but you can't not. Because the reality is he's operating at a very, very high level. He's qualifying and racing in terms of his achievements this year. He really should, based on the championship and what he's done so far, he should win it because he deserves to. On
the subject of championship, there's also a huge battle going on for position 3. And I thought that on the Sunday at Sandown last weekend, that battle that we saw Shane van Gisbergen, Garth Tander and Mark Winterbottom involved in was one of the real hallmark championship battles this year. There was no quarter given or taken. There was nothing in it. Everybody was on the mat, had no more to give, and that just indicates how tight it is for those blokes at the moment, and the points are really tight there.
Well, they are. That P3, I mean, I know it doesn't sound much because finishing 3rd in the championship, you know, next week we'll say who cares. But the reality is they want to be the first forward. So I think the intensity, Tander's in it, but they want to be the first forward. If you're Van Gisbergen or Winterbottom, you want to beat each other.
Let's have a look at the championship situation at the moment. You can see the margin is 188 points in favour of Jamie Whincup over his teammate Craig Lowndes. And as Mark and I just spoke about, this battle for third's fantastic. Frosty, Mark Winterbottom's now 35 points clear of Shane van Gisbergen, and Garth Tander is a further 26 points behind. The other thing that I wanted to do, Skaife, is have a look at our season in summary, because we've been talking about this as well. 9 different blokes have had a pole position this year, and 12 different drivers, including yourself, have had a race win.
I mean, that's the extraordinary part, isn't it? I mean, we say about how healthy the series is, but the reality is that it's demonstrated by the number of winners and the number of pole sitters. So if you go across the whole season and you look at the numbers, as I said, the Whincup numbers are really impressive, but even guys like Tander and Rick Kelly to have 3 wins each in this series is very good.
And you'd have to say, with 9 pole positions and 10 race wins, this should be Jamie Whincup's championship. If it isn't, there's going to be something drastically wrong either next Saturday or next Sunday. All right, mate, we're going to take our first break on V8Xtra. As we go to the break, we'll look down to Tassie, where Jamie Whincup recorded a couple of vital wins that have put him in very good position for this championship. And on the other side of the break, we're going to catch up with Rick Kelly from Jack Daniels Racing. He's standing by right now. Back soon.
Whincup under maximum pressure, and Winterbottom, who backed himself, will get through first. Our championship contenders are all pretty close.
Jamie just gets it done at the end. Mark Winterbottom leaves him enough road.
Look at this. Off it goes. Lowndes finally squeezes through. And again, a good start from Winterbottom. Dumbrell puts pressure on him straight away.
Dumbrell's fallen off the road. Oh,
going to get him. How do they get away? Well, Whincup didn't go anywhere.
Look at this. It's pretty hard work out there at the moment. Like, it's a nightmare.
And Dumbrell's gone off.
There's Dumbrell gone. He's backed up.
Lowndes has got through on his teammate now. This is a remarkable comeback for Craig.
It's a great day for Rick Kelly. He's mastered the mayhem today. Todd Kelly has got up onto the podium as well in third.
Last Saturday at Sandown, Jack Daniels Racing, Rick Kelly getting win number 3 for the 2011 championship season. Welcome back to V8Xtra. Unbelievable conditions, horrendous, perhaps some of the worst conditions we've seen in the championship run in the recent past. And I'm very pleased to say that he joins us on the line now from JD Racing. Welcome, Rick Kelly.
Thanks very much, really appreciate that. We're certainly praying for rain for the next 5 years. I think that'll be handy if you can organise it.
Hey, Rico, those race 25 conditions, they were unbelievably bad. Obviously, we've already said, you know, it was a great drive, very impressive performance, but what was it like in terms of visibility?
Yeah, it was okay for me. I was obviously very fortunate to be in a car that was on rails in the wet, if there's such a thing. And out the front, it was nice and clear for me. The demister and everything inside the car was working very, very well. But in the mirror, you could see just 1 or 2 cars back how bad the conditions were. Normally, it takes a good 7 or 10 cars to make it that bad. So obviously, the Sandown circuit's quite a coarse material on the ground, and it hasn't got very much of a a nice concave surface either, so the water stands around a lot and it gets splashed up every time a car goes over. And obviously the rain again was quite heavy, so yeah, pretty bad. And the conditions did change quite a bit. The first few laps it dried up a little, and Jamie pulled me back in a little bit, and then after the first safety car it got very, very wet and started aquaplaning down the straight. So a very long 36 lap race in the end for me.
Well, I mean, you led from start to finish, and we've talked your stocks up, but I bet you in the debrief, what have you said about why it works so well in the wet and why it's not so good in the dry?
Why is it not just the driver?
We'll go with that if you want.
Nah, look, our cars, I mean, it's quite funny. On the Friday night, we all sort of went home with our towels tucked between our legs a little bit because we definitely struggled in the dry. In all the places our car was poor on the Friday, it was very, very strong on the Saturday in the wet. So it's quite interesting. That gives us a lot of great data from that circuit to go away now and work out exactly, like you said, why our cars are so strong in the wet, and at that particular track on the Friday, quite bad in the dry. And two of the things that we struggle with at the Sandown circuit is one is the low grip circuit and surface that's provided there for us, and there's a lot of bumps on drive as well, particularly under the main straight, and that's where our cars do struggle just a little bit as well. So we just need to do a little bit of work there, obviously probably mostly in the shock department, and keep capitalising on those conditions when they are wet.
Hey, Rick, I want you to describe just exactly what it's like sitting in that Jack Daniels racing car doing 250, 60, 70 kilometres an hour and not being able to see a darn thing.
It's a little bit daunting, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that 36-kilometre or lap race, I should say, just felt like it took forever for me. The 65-lap race the next day felt like 10 minutes. It's amazing. I mean, going up the straight in the dry, it's all nice and relaxed, but up the straight in the wet, it can bite you at any minute and step sideways. So it takes a lot of concentration and, a lot of aggression to keep it on the track.
Hey, a real quick one, Rico. The Sydney Telstra 500, obviously, much different style of circuit, but your cars were pretty good here last year, P3 and P7. You're looking forward to the streets of Homebush?
Yeah, it's a long event. I mean, it's a bit like the Clipsal 500, 250-kilometre races, so your fitness has to be very high for that one. It's quite warm, and yeah, we did sneak a podium in there last year, but it's only because I was almost half a lap down at the restart, and all the drivers hit the water and hit the fence, and I trickled through past them all and grabbed a trophy, so we were very lucky. But with what we've done this year with our cars, we should be looking quite strong, so quite keen to get there and have a crack.
All right, Rick, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for your time today. Look forward to seeing you again next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Hey, now, before we go, we have got parked some unbelievable vision. Now, it was OK for Rick Kelly to say his visibility was good because he was at the front, but we got some vision of Mark Winterbottom, 17th on the grid, blazing into the first corner and about the first third of the lap. Take a look at this.
Everyone in, safety car and the whole of this pit lane.
And it will be congested and people will have to queue. So this will be a repeat of Bathurst here because they'll have to queue behind Whincup. There's 2 into 1 does not go for Team Vodafone here.
So Winterbottom goes into his pit bay. Whincup does so as well, but Lowndes has to sit and wait.
Oh, look at all this. Look at it all.
Here comes Winterbottom, so he's going to slot into
P2.
second position.
And now they serve. This will kill Lowndes. He's just going to drop 5 or 6 or more spots here. And now Lowndes is serviced and away he goes. So that is just...
That's going to put him into 15.
1 lap earlier.
From second to 15.
Yesterday.
Certainly been a big talking point this year. Cars queuing in the pit lane. It's lit up the inbox on our Big Pond Sport email. Welcome back to V8Xtra. We're at the Novotel at Sydney Olympic Park overlooking ANZ Stadium. Construction continues. Now, I'm a bit sensitive about this one and mentioning it around my mate here because it's a bit like mentioning the war when you talk about this subject.
Don't talk about it.
Skip over it.
Don't talk about it.
Well, obviously, one of the issues here is the one that Gary Henson raises from Gosford, your old stomping ground. Isn't it a bit unfair that Lowndes, for example, has to keep on waiting every time Whincup and he make a pit stop?
Well, it's nothing personal. It's just track position. So whoever's in the lead gets the preferential treatment in the pit at that time. Mark Larkham's got a great piece on this, hasn't he?
Yep, indeed he has. So we sent him out with a camera last week at Sandown. Here's Mark Larkham to colour in all the details.
We're still getting a lot of email and a lot of interest about this whole issue of double stacking in a pit stop. This is starting to turn into championship changing stuff. So let's just understand a little bit more about it, why it is and how it is. Now, first of all, let's have a look. Here we are at Sandown, typical pit lane length. A race car is roughly about 5 metres long. Now, in a pit stop, of course, you know, and room to get out. Now, if every single car had its own boom with set of rattle guns on it, you simply wouldn't fit 28 of them down pit lane. So what the regulations require is every 2-car team has 1 pit boom and its own set of guns. They've got to share it. Now, whilst they can have their own fuel cells with their fuel cell in there, they've got to have 1 boom. And single-car teams have to couple up with another single-car team and share 1 boom. So that makes sure everyone can fit. Now, in the modern era of V8 supercars where we have more safety cars, more strategy, because we have sprint tyres, soft tyres, degrading tyres, and we have 75-litre smaller fuel cells, there's a higher requirement to charge into the on safety car to get serviced. And very often we see that second car parked out here in the slow lane, waiting to be serviced. Now, this has affected more than anyone our championship contenders, Team Vodafone.
So, for the 3rd time, car 888 has to park behind car 88 in pit lane and wait.
Well, I don't think we've got a lot of option. I mean, when you've got 2 very quick guys running at the front on some of the street circuits we've got, the strategies we've got, there isn't a lot of option, frankly, Larko. It's affecting everyone to an extent up and down pit lane, but you see us more, unfortunately, you know, from that point of view, so we get the criticism as a result of it, but we don't have a lot of options.
OK, so to put the final piece in this jigsaw puzzle, a lot of people ask, why doesn't that second car just stay out and do an extra lap and come straight through a nice clean pit lane? Well, let's have a look why that can't happen or why it doesn't work. Sandown Raceway. Now, you've got to remember the safety car is always deployed from the pit lane. So here's our race going on, cars around the track everywhere, big crash down here at turn 3, out the safety car goes. He'll try and always pick up the leader. So what happens? All the cars, they pile into pit lane, bang, 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 bang. They're all stacked up in here getting serviced. By then they come out and the safety car, he might be around here somewhere. So all the cars catch up and follow the safety car around, all stacked up behind him. Now, remember, you elected not to pit, so you're the first guy in the line. So you follow the safety car around. That's great. You're leading the race for a moment. Safety car comes round, goes past the pit lane. You come in, nice, clear run through pit lane, except when you come out, safety car's now down here. Teams all stacked up behind him, cars behind him. You come out of the pit lane, you're now the last guy in the queue. Bad move, doesn't work. Let's remember, though, this is a good problem to have. This is a consequence of having 28 competitive cars, very difficult strategy, so get used to it, ain't going away in a hurry.
Well done, Mr Squiggle. Nice explanation there. Mark Larkin reporting with all that goes on in our pit lane. OK, we're going to take a break again on V8Xtra. When we come back on the other side, one of our items will be the musical chairs. Who goes where in 2012? Stay with us.
And away they will go for the Sydney Telstra 500. Now Whincup comes up alongside him and he rounds up the series leader.
Oh, off the road! He's gone! He's in the fence! They're both in the fence!
They're all in the fence. Unbelievable. Top 3 in the fence. That is a victory that's fallen from the heavens. Jonathan Webb. Championship deciding race. It's all come down to this one.
Shane Van Gisbergen tantalisingly close to his first V8 Supercar victory.
He's going to have a crack at there. Shane Van Gisbergen runs out of gas. A new V8 Supercar champion is crowned here.
We certainly had a couple of mega races here last year at Sydney Olympic Park, the Sydney Telstra 500, and it's on again next weekend. It's a big rock and race event. Farnham, Hunters and Collectors, James Rain, lots going on, Skaife. The place is going to come alive. In fact, by the time we get to this time next week, it'll game on. Now, one of the things that we've not spoken about in any expanded detail, first time really since Bathurst, you and I have had a chance to chat on air, you're stepping away from full-time V8 supercar driving, and 2012 is going to have a very different complexion for a lot of reasons, for a lot of people, in many ways.
Yeah, so, I mean, my decision was to either stay in the enduro roles or to go and do the commission. The commission's an important facet of the business in terms of interacting with the board and with the management of V8 Supercar. So the commission will look after everything to do with racing, and I've obviously now decided to do that. But it's not just me. I mean, for me coming out, there's a lot of movement for 2012, probably the most amount we've seen for a while.
Indeed. So not only is Buggerlugs going to be missing in action on the racetrack in the Enduros next year, he's with us, and that'll be a bit of fun, but there's a whole lot of other movement. To detail some of it, here's Aaron Noonan with all the latest in the musical chairs.
Let's start with what we definitely know. Russell Ingall and Super Cheap Auto are joining Walkinshaw Racing. Done. Fabian Coulthard leaves Walkinshaw Racing to join Brad Jones Racing. Done. Lee Holdsworth replaces Alex Davison in the Irwin Ford at Stone Brothers Racing. Done. Then the speculation gets rather interesting. David Reynolds has been linked to a Bottle Falcon move replacing the retiring Paul Dumbrell. Therefore, Carl Reindler could be leaving Brad Jones Racing for the number 16 Kelly Racing entry. Dick Johnson Racing appears set to expand its operations next year. Dean Fiore is thought to be off to DJR with separate backing, and a fourth car is a possibility. The future of Paul Morris's team remains unclear. So where does Steve Owen fit into the jigsaw? And remember, there's a spare seat too at Fujitsu Racing GRM. No doubt there'll be some surprises over the coming months, and when V8Xtra cracks back into life next year, we'll fill in all the blanks.
Thanks, Aaron. So plenty on to contemplate next year for your favourite team and driver. Now, Skaife, when we think about Sydney Telstra 500, I just think of one scene for you and I jumping up and down in the comm box. He's in, he's in, he's in too. There were so many blokes in the concrete wall in the wet last year. It was amazing.
It was, wasn't it? I mean, you'd never say, I mean, you couldn't have put money on having that sort of result and that sort of drama attached to winning the series. And what about all the things that happened afterwards? So they all fire in the fence. They're all destroyed. You said actually on the telecast, oh, it's all over, it's game over. Yeah. And then they're parked in the garage. It's a race between the two top teams to have the car repaired to get out. That's how the championship unfolded, and Whincup was very dark as a consequence, wasn't it?
Well, I reckon you could almost say accurately that his 2011 campaign's been framed by the pain that he took virtually at this point last year. He was really stung by missing out last year.
Oh, no doubt. And look, we've already said his performances this year were fantastic, but last year they were also very, very good, and he probably deserved, based on his wins and his speed, to have won last year. So he was gutted as a consequence of this place in 2010.
A couple of other little things that kind of went under the radar, but Lee Holdsworth, the win on the Sunday, was a beautiful drive and set him up for a great championship assault in 2011. The other thing was that we very nearly got a Shane Van Gisbergen victory ahead of the one that we ultimately got this year in New Zealand, but for the economy run, they ended up being unable to put that together in terms of fuel mileage.
Yeah, I mean, that was cruel, wasn't it? We actually thought he might have got home, and then with half a lap to go, gone, exactly. The other thing that's going to happen, Croppo, is Friday coming, you and I are going to drive the latest car of the future prototype. So the two cars that we've built as a Ford and Holden variant for the cars that we'll see racing in 2013, you and I are going to drive a blue and a red one. And the cars have come up fantastic. So come out to the Sydney Telstra 500 and have a good look, because they're on display all weekend.
Be just like the old days. Really looking forward to that. It's a very exciting era forthcoming in 2013 when our new car comes along. But right now, let's focus on our next V8 Supercar event. That is next weekend, and it is December 2, 3 and 4. The Sydney Telstra 500 races 27 and 28 of our championship. It is the grand finale for 2011. 188 points between Jamie Whincup and Craig Lowndes at the moment. And look, we're saying that it could be Whincups, but who knows? Weird things happen in motorsport. Skaife, thanks very much for your time today. And we'll look forward to your company again next week. Don't forget our next V8 Extra. It wraps up our entire championship season, a 1-hour gala special, the V8 Supercar dinner following our grand finale next week. And that's our next V8 Supercar engagement for V8 Extra, Saturday, December the 10th, and it will be at midday. Look forward to your company then. Hope you've enjoyed our program today. Bye for now.